Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this morning's webinar. I'm Alan Barrett, Director of the ESRI, and it's a great pleasure to welcome everybody online this morning. So it's great to see we've close to 100 people who are joining us, and we'll probably nudge a little bit above that as people carry on joining. So I think you're all aware, over the next hour and a little bit, we're going to launch a new study. Titled the study, An Exploratory Study of Care Experience Students' Educational Journeys. This is work that has been done by my colleague, Merica Darmody, and work that was commissioned by our colleagues in EPIC. So the format for the next hour or so, in a couple of moments, I'll call on Merica to take us through the details of the report, and it is absolutely fascinating and troubling, I suppose, as it would be another word I would use for it. After that, we'll have some comments from Wayne Stanley, the CEO of EPIC, and after that, Sinead Dunn of TUD. Sinead specifically works in access and outreach, will provide some comments on the report as well. Hopefully, we'll have a little bit of time at the end for some Q&A. So if I could ask people to just sort of be thinking as the comments come from the various contributors, and towards the end, then you'll be able to submit questions through the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen, and I'll do my best to relay the questions to the folks on screen. So with that, it's a real pleasure to call on my colleague Merica, who is going to take us through the details of the study. So Merica, over to you, and I presume you'll be sharing a screen with us then as well.
Thank you, Alan, very much for your introduction. I am just about to share the screen here of the study.
So sharing is working. You just need to do it on full screen.
Yes. No. Hopefully you can see the full screen now.
Yeah, no, that's perfect now. Thanks, Merica.
Right. Now, as Alan said, this study focuses on the educational journeys of care experienced young people in Ireland. Before I launch into the findings of the study, there are some important acknowledgements to make, particularly EPIC, who commissioned the study. And also the funding of the report is from the program of access to higher education, the PASS3, and that is funded by Higher Education Authority. My particular thanks go to the 16 young people who participated in the study and gave very generously of their time. As well as some of the key stakeholders who participated in our consultation event, and their input also greatly enhanced our understanding of the situation that care experienced young people experience. So in terms of the outline of the presentation, so in the next 20 minutes or so, I talk very briefly about the background of the study and previous research in the fields, a few words then about the methodology of the study, and then giving more time to the research fundings, and I will then conclude with a summary and directions for policy development. So in terms of the background of the study, there is plenty of international literature as well as Irish literature that highlights the importance of educational attainment to the future life chances of young people. And studies from different jurisdictions as well as from Ireland, particularly if we think of the data that is now available through the CSO, shown us that care experienced children and young people generally tend to have lower academic attainment compared to their peers. And they are also less likely to progress to higher education. And in case they do that, they tend to do that slightly later on. So all this considered, we were interested in exploring what are the factors that may contribute to the post-school decision-making of care experienced young people. So we recruited young people from two groups. Basically, all people who participated in the study had progressed into third-level education, but some of them had also dropped out. So their experience is also quite important for us to explore. So the study started off with the desk-based research, looking at literature in the field, both international and Irish. Focus was also on identifying international best practices and state interventions that have been shown successful in supporting care experienced students' educational journeys. In order to get an insight into people's personal experiences, we had a focus group with 16 care experienced young people. And to complement that, we also carried out consultation with the main stakeholders and professionals. So those represented different areas. We had participants from, who were social workers, also aftercare managers, foster care association members, university access program coordinators and admission officers, guidance counselors, and school completion program coordinators. So we got some very rich input from them also. So starting with the main findings of the study, they are presented at under different headings. So first of all, care setting and school changes. What this study has shown that multiple care placements and school changes have very strong impact on the experiences of young people. And that can be illustrated by some of the, one of the quotes here, for example, where the young person says that, there are different obstacles. You have the new placement, getting to know other peers in the school, as well as in the care setting, new staff members in school, getting to know new teachers, and that young person found that extremely difficult. And one could argue that perhaps any person who is changing school can experience similar difficulties, but we would argue that the situation may be a lot more difficult for a care experienced young person. And in some cases, these changes could be very abrupt. For example, one young person found that they were informed of being moved on Friday beforehand, and then the actual move took place on the following Monday. So it was a very sudden change for that young person. And there's plenty of literature, international as well as Irish, on school engagement. And for care experienced young people, the school engagement was associated with, again, the school and care placement changes, but also mental health, learning difficulties, perceived lack of support. And we can again see from this quote from the young person who felt that they had a big issue attending school, but also felt that it was not really their fault because there were so many placements, and the person felt that as soon as I settled and then I started going back to school, I'd have to move again. Some people also highlighted that it is really important to understand that it is not perhaps lack of interest in schooling, but it's their background and circumstances that can influence their engagement and sometimes school attendance as well. So, if, let's say, teachers see issues with attendance and engagement, it may not necessarily reflect the dedication to education of the young person, but could be down to their personal circumstances. Interpersonal relationships are also very important for the school experiences of young people. In particular, relationship with teachers and other staff in the school. And overall, the young people who participated in the study felt that they had at least one teacher that they could talk to about what was going on in their lives. And in some cases, they formed lasting relationships with the teacher, as we can see in the first quote here, where the young person remained in contact with the teacher even after finishing school. But then there were also other experiences where the young people felt that there was a certain lack of understanding from the teachers in terms of what it means to be in care, what are the challenges that young people experience, and, some of the experiences that young people had a lasting impact on them, especially when a young person felt that, the teacher that they felt that the teacher was making fun of them in front of the whole class, which led them to feel very embarrassed. And, subsequently the person dreaded going to school every single day. In addition to the relationship with teachers and other staff, making friends was very important for young people in terms of their school engagement, but also for feeling of belonging in the school. And, because of the frequent changes, this area could be a bit difficult for young people. As this young person says, it is quite difficult making new friendships with people because I just think, well, they're just going to leave now. And what's the point of making friendships? Some young people also felt that it was easier to make friends with students who had similar experiences. So they would called them as their care friends. Another potential point of support are social workers, and their relationship with them, again, is a very important factor in how young people fared in school. Overall, the experiences of the young people participating in the study varied when it came to social workers. One person said, I was lucky enough to have had a kind of very good social worker. She was in my corner and she was a huge support to me. And she was very encouraging of my education. In other case, the social worker showed great dedication and went above and beyond in order to provide consistent help with that young person. who then felt that the settling in the new school was a lot easier subsequently. But there is a counterpoint to that. Not all experiences were positive. And that was also expressed by the stakeholders in the study, who referred to a shortage of social workers in the system. And importantly, what young people said in terms of the interpersonal relationships with teachers and social workers, it's the people you remember it's the people who actually showed up for you. But there's also people you remember who weren't very helpful. In terms of the next topic that was explored in the report was the post-school decision-making. And that process was informed by a number of different factors, for example, subjects the students liked at school. Also, students the young people felt that doing well meant that they were fighting the stigma related to care. And, the previous topic about the relationship with teachers had indicated that some of the staff in school had very stereotypical views of care experienced young people, and tended to see them as troublemakers, students who were difficult. But also going back to the post-school decision-making, some people had developed interest in certain areas themselves. In terms of the sources of support, foster parents, teachers and guidance counselors and social workers were all quoted as having had some input and support in making in the decision-making process. We were particularly interested in exploring, what made young people to consider a third-level education. For some, going to college was something that everybody does. And you can see it from the quote from one young person. I just always thought that you had to go to college, and that was it. I was never given any other options but to go to college, and that was from social workers. And my foster mom in particular, she said, no, you go to college. And yeah, I just thought that was something that everybody did. It has to be said, however, that the information and support received from the guidance counselors and social workers really varied. In some cases, when a young person had chosen a particular area, that option was sometimes, as one young person said, shut down. Or people were kind of recommended to select a different option. And that was also evident in terms of choosing what kind of leaving certificates to take, with some care experienced young people being diverted towards leaving certificate applied rather than leaving certificate than the regular leaving certificate. In terms of progression to third level, all 16 individuals who participated in the study had progressed to third level education. And as all young people who move from secondary school to third level education, they feel certain level of disruption because they encounter a totally new setting, new friendships, issues around accommodation, finances. But again, it could be argued that it can be more difficult for young people with care experience because they don't tend to have the family support that their peers do. And you can see it again from the quote here, the various areas people found challenging: the money management, budgeting, filling out forms, moving from A back to B, navigating that, and navigating adult college life, and the change in, adolescent relationships to adult relationships, because you have a mix, with your students and whatnot. Also, academically speaking as well, it was more challenging. I didn't feel prepared going to college, so it was a big shock. So for some young people who participated in the study, their experiences in third level were perhaps a little bit too challenging and resulted in them dropping out. And in terms of the issues that tended to contribute to that included mental health issues and inflexibility of the study at third level, struggling with the workload and having learning difficulties, feeling that there was very little support available, or were unsure who to turn to or how to access help. Aftercare was one topic that young people spoke at length about, and there was a lot of criticism regarding to linking going to college to the aftercare support. Some people felt that they didn't actually want to go to college. This person says here, I didn't really want to go to college. I wanted to do a gap year, and I was told pretty sharply that there wasn't really going to be a great option for me because of the aftercare payment. Another person said, I was basically forced into third level education because of the aftercare aspect. So I felt it's more like you're forced into it rather than you kind of want to go into it. So people often felt that they had no other option than to enroll into third level education. And that caused stress for young people, particularly also when the person wasn't entirely sure what they wanted to do. And in one case, for example, a course was selected for that young person, and that particular course they had no interest in. It is important to say that aftercare workers are a really important source of support for care experienced young people. However, some young people in the study were quite critical about the level of support they received. And you can see the different areas aftercare workers can provide assistance with, for example, money management, budgeting, filling out forms, etc. But again, some young people had very little input also from aftercare workers, and in some cases it was framed like lack of resources, like this young person says here. There are simply not enough social workers and definitely not enough aftercare workers to meet the amount of people leaving care. Stakeholders also said that eligible young people all have an aftercare worker, but the level of engagement changes from student to student. Sometimes they don't engage, and sometimes the reason for that is can be that they have had some negative experience before. So I'm aware that I also need to give some time for other speakers. So in the way of summary, it is important to acknowledge that, as with all children, those with care experience are not a homogeneous group, but have individual needs and challenges, as well as aspirations and hopes for future. And data from international and Irish research shows that young people in care tend to have poor attendance, poor school attendance, are more likely to have changed school, are more likely to be early leavers, and less likely to enter higher education compared to the peers. And what is really useful at this stage is that we now have information here in Ireland from the Central Statistics Office, so we can get a better idea in terms of the experiences of young people who are going through the education system. Frequent care placement changes and moving schools impact young people in a number of ways, as we could see from the earlier slides. Areas such as school engagement, attitude to school, attendance, but also disrupted friendships, sense of belonging, as well as developing aspirations for future. School engagement early on is particularly important because aspirations and expectations are formed during the early in the schooling career of young people, and we need better understanding about the experiences throughout their educational careers. It is important that teachers and care professionals provide sufficient and flexible support for young people, and throughout the literature about disadvantaged young people in general, but also care experienced young people in particular, different researchers have highlighted the importance of the one good adult, to have at least one person who is there for them constantly, to provide support and care. It is really important to support young people's aspirations, particularly in the light of what I said before, that some people in school or care workers can perhaps have low expectations of young people. But it is really important to build young people up, to encourage their aspirations so that they would be able to reach their full potential. It is very important to acknowledge the double transition that young care experienced people are going through, which is leaving care and leaving school at the same time. It is a particularly challenging time in the lives of those people, and they are doing it often, without the support of their family. While many young people experience challenges related to enrolling in third-level education, including getting used to the new setting, issues around accommodation, finances, as I said before, the situation is more acute for care experienced young people. And in terms of the directions for policy development in future, as I said before, school teachers and social workers should prioritize the needs of care experienced young people, and support their school engagement and ensure that they have the best possible opportunity to continue their education after finishing school. And the teachers and other staff members should be sufficiently informed about the challenges associated with being in care, so that they can adequately support care experienced young, children and young people. And there is actually a resource that I wanted to highlight here, that is produced, that was published by EPIC this year. It's a resource for schools, and it basically highlights the challenges experienced young people in care. That is very helpful, I think, for the schools. Also, it is important to acknowledge the interagency work, to have consistent and good quality care from foster families, social workers, and aftercare workers, that there should really be a good wraparound support for young people who have care experience so that they can do well at school and beyond. Despite the aftercare support that is available for those who qualify for it, some people may still struggle in post-school education, and third-level institutions can assist the care experienced young people by linking them with available supports and provides perhaps targeted supports where needed, such as maybe, full year accommodation for caregivers who do not have family home to return to during the holiday periods, named just one. And that is actually one measure that has been used internationally to support young caregivers. One challenge, of course, is that often the third level institutions are not aware who amongst their student body are care experienced, because some young people do not want to identify themselves as such. And some people participating in the study, they felt that they want to walk away from the stigma attached to being in care. Some people describing it as turning a new leaf, but it is difficult for third level institutions to put in place supports if they are not aware who amongst their student body needs such help. So there is also potential to do more in this space. And that concludes my presentation today, and the full report is available on the ESRI website if you would like to read more about that. Many thanks.
Very good. Many thanks to you, America. Fantastic presentation, I have to say, because you really did get the sort of the sense as well as the sort of precise details across. So really, really fascinating, and congratulations to you. So with that, I'm going to call on Wayne Stanley now, who's the CEO of Epic. And before you speak, Wayne, can I just say, the ESRI, we have a certain amount of resources to do a certain amount of research, but it is always fantastic when organizations like yourself prompt research to be done and commission and fund and engage and everything like that, because I think this is a really, really important study, and it may not have happened without Epic's engagement on it. So sincere thanks to you. So with that, look forward to your remarks.
Thanks, Alan. And I think all of us in Epic have to congratulate Marika on the report. We really feel, anyone who's read it, and I would encourage everybody to download the full report. It will drive emotion in you. I think at the very least, it'll make you angry in places. It'll make you downhearted in places, and it will inspire. It is what Marika has achieved in allowing the voices, or in skillfully uplifting the voices of the young people that she engaged with, to tell the story of education and all the barriers and the successes that young people have through the education system. I think is profoundly powerful. And there's a real skill and a professional commitment to a quality of production of a report that allows the voices of young people to really be heard. And I think this report has achieved that in spades. As someone who's relatively new to my post, I've been aware of the care system, obviously, for a long period of time, but really one of the things that I think most of us miss, perhaps not the people in this room, but I think that the public missed, is the depth of understanding that young people have about their experiences and the empathy they have for the systems that they're in and the people who are engaging with them, the empathy they have for the pressure that their social work is under, that their teacher is under, that the school system is under, and the lack of understanding that that the teacher will have of their circumstances. And that's not to excuse anything, but it does mean that we really need to listen to the voices of young people, and that we need to empower young people to be their own advocates as much as we advocate for them as well. That is one of the things that really jumped out at me at the report, and perhaps I was looking for it. So everyone should read the report and draw their own conclusion. But one of the things in the research that we've been doing, another piece of research we published by Hilary Jenkinson, was looking at the model of advocacy. And one of the quotes that I love, and I've been quoting consistently since I read it, was talking about how we empower young people. And you don't empower, you create pathways for young people to be empowered. You pull barriers out of their way so that they can be empowered. But one of the things that they said in that was, where I feel I have a right, I have a firm piece of ground to stand on. And one of the standout quotes from me in this report was from Luna, who said, I still also think education is a right. And, you know, sometimes teachers, they may be a little bit uncomfortable, but they may be with a rowdy student, but they can't really block their access to education because of it, because it's a right. There was another young person who talked about, you know, in being able to self-advocate for herself, because she felt that, you know, she had a right to that. So she knew she would struggle. So she went to her teacher and was able to self-advocate. Okay, I'm doing this. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what my foster parent or my support network is doing. I'm getting grinds, but I'm going to need a bit of extra support. And because she had the one good adult, the one good teacher, she was able to get that support and achieve. So I think what the report reminds us is that there are external pressures on young people who are care experienced or in the care system. And I suppose schools can only do a certain amount about that, but what they can do, and Marika has pulled this out in the recommendations or in the areas to look at, is that if there's better communication between the support network for care experienced young people and their schools, we can actually at least make the school more aware of what those barriers are, what they are, and when they're coming. You know, there's a lot of very adult things happening to children, and the school needs to be sensitive to that and aware of it, and also understand how they can support, because a teacher dealing with a class of 20 or 30 students needs to know what's the correct way to support a young person who's care experienced, and you know, EPIC is involved in that work along with TESS and TUSTA in the education system. But there's also, it comes out in the report, is the internal pressures within school that care experienced young people can have, and some of that sadly is a poverty of expectation. And some of that may even be, some of the quotes, it may even be well-meaning, as they don't want to put pressure on the child because there's a sense of their advantage. But that, for me, my concern around that is that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And again, the answer for me to that goes back to that rights-based approach. If the young person understands it as their right, at some level, it is less important what somebody else thinks. It's what's important is what they think, and that's how we move to a more empowering system. The other thing that does come through, and Marika again drew this out, is that notion of the one good adult, that a teacher who really invests in a young person, who takes the time with them to engage with them where they're at, can be transformative for that young person. I struggle a little bit, I have to say, and again, I'm relatively new to this, Rob. I struggle a little bit with the notion of one good adult. It's very clear one good adult can be transformative, and as one young person at one of our events recently said, the secret is, if you can be sound, just be sound. And I think that kind of captures it in its essence. But the truth is, and twee as it is, it takes a village to raise a child, and we need lots of the one good adults. We need everybody pulling for these young people. And I think one of the things we would say is that in the school systems, if we have school systems that are more care aware and are more aware of the barriers that can impact young people, and are putting in young care experienced young people, and are putting in the systems about how they address that, actually they'll have a better school community. They'll have better outcomes for all of their students, because the things that you do to be sound will impact all of your students. There is additional pressures, and we do need to be aware of those. And I think one of the things, again, Marika pulls out is that the intersectionality where there are pressures. We all know there are lots of pressures on young people in today's world, even beyond the scope of this report. We know that particularly that transition when you're going through the Leaving Cert and into education, that's a stressful time. But for care experienced young people, too many of them are also trying to navigate the fact that they're going to leave care and all the things that means. And Marika hit on a number of those in the thing, and there's more in the report itself. And that transition period, that intersectionality of care, and the lack, or the perceived lack, or the actual lack of support when it comes to the aftercare, and not maybe giving time and space to young people when they're leaving the education system to think about where they really want to go and what's the absolute best option for them. Some of that is about making sure the guidance is there, but a lot of it will be about, can we create more flexibility in our aftercare system for young people leaving care that will give them that option to rethink their choices. We know generally the course that somebody goes into where they think they want to be, after a year they might have discovered this isn't the way I want to go and I want to change direction. That option is less available to a young person who's on who needs their aftercare support, because that won't necessarily follow them, and they're a danger at the end that they won't have any support in the last and critical year of their course. So in terms of the next steps for EPIC, I think we want to build on this. The reason why we commissioned this report, the reason why we entered this space, is we heard from our youth council members that this was an area they really wanted EPIC to focus on. There wasn't enough being said about it. So we want to build on that, because I suppose what I was attempting to articulate there, and hopefully I give some indication, was that we do feel there are solutions to this. We do feel there are more supports that can be provided. We do feel that there are school communities around the country who do want to know how they can better serve care experience to young people and support them in education. We know that the social workers out there, the aftercare workers, recognize, will hear and see and will know from their own experience the truth that's spoken through the voices of the young people in this report. And they want to provide solutions as well. So I think there's a community that really wants to move this issue forward. To that end, we're hoping to gather up a lot of those people, and hopefully the ESRI will be there with us, perhaps in October this year, to have another conference, to have a wider conversation around the solutions to this, and move everybody forward. But I think, again, so as my closing comment, I would say to everybody, please do take the time to download and read this report, as this is an area of interest for you, because I think the voices of the young people will inspire you to be committed to the solutions that are there, that are also drawn out in this report. And again, I want to thank the RSI and Marika and colleagues in TU Dublin for their support in the production of this really important resource and report. Thanks, Alan.
Wayne, and I know you're going going to stay with us. Just remind people, if you want to put questions to the various people on screen, please feel free to do so. So a number of questions have come in, and we'll get into that discussion in a couple of moments. But before all that, I want to call on Sinead Dunn. So Sinead is Senior Management with Access and Outreach with TUD, and TUD have got a couple of mentions already, but Sinead, we'll leave it to you to expand more fully on that. But anyway, very welcome to the webinar, and we're looking forward to your remarks.
Hi everyone. I suppose I just wanted to explain where TU Dublin fits in to the piece of research. So my role, my name is Sinead Dunn, you can see, but my role is the Senior Manager in TU Dublin for Access and Outreach. So I particularly want to thank the researcher, America, in terms of this great research. But I suppose we might be shocked, but we're not really surprised with the findings. We have students who are care experience students. They sit on the council with EPIC. And I suppose this research came about as a result of TU Dublin's partnership with EPIC. In particular, at the beginning, the scoping out of the research, the person, I suppose, who was involved in EPIC at the time, Conor Stitt, we spent a lot of time with EPIC, with Conor, working out what questions we needed to be addressed as part of the research and what we wanted to achieve. So I suppose TU Dublin's role, we're committed to widening participation to higher education and aiding the transition piece between that secondary school experience and like the difficulties that were mentioned there, like the obstacles, the trauma, the difficulties with friendships, all of those kind of issues, you know, create barriers for care experience students in terms of transitioning to higher education. And I was surprised, I suppose, to hear that some students were being forced into higher education and may not be on the right program. So I suppose the importance of our role in terms of outreach is to, you know, educate kind of the groups that are working with care experience students in terms of pathways to education, that if a student, you know, really wanted to kind of pursue higher education, or perhaps kind of defer it kind of over the years until they're ready to commit to higher education, that we would work in an outreach capacity to address that. We know in TU Dublin, as was mentioned by America, we know we have students who are care experience, and some of them have made themselves known to our support services. But it's always frustrated us that we could be supporting more students if we could identify them. So organisations such as EPIC and the state agencies, TUSLA and social care workers and all of those people who work with care experience, all of those are important agencies to help us develop the links between the students and the university. I suppose in terms of the funding, the HEA Path 3 funding, it's had significant impact on the work that we're able to do with this community. And like we work with communities who are traditionally underrepresented in higher education, but the care experience piece is particularly special. We initially researched or commissioned this research through EPIC, and EPIC in turn commissioned ESRI to get involved with it. So this is our second piece of research that we were involved with this year in terms of care experience. So earlier this year, we also launched research with SOAR, and it was a collaboration between SOAR, TU Dublin and EPIC. So that was also students with care experience in higher education. So it was particularly around their progression in life despite their circumstances. So one of the recommendations also from that was the creation of a network of relevant professionals. Just to create a kind of triad of support for care experience students. So the first meeting of that was held in TU Dublin in March of this year, where we involved kind of SOAR, ourselves, aftercare workers, access practitioners, all of those peers, foster carers, and residential staff. So the hope is that with these two pieces of research, that we'll get a better feel for kind of putting the exact supports in place that are necessary, and really identifying those areas that we can target supports. So we're delighted with the launch today of the research, and we welcomed the minister's announcement earlier this month in relation to the continuation of HEA path funding. So we're hoping that this will give us, you know, the tools to be able to look at the recommendations to see what it is we can tackle, I suppose, for want of a better word. But we are very grateful, really, for the EPIC, ESRI, and the HEA. So that's it, really. But I just really wanted to explain where TU Dublin's involvement in the whole process was. But we're looking forward to kind of continuing the relationship and the partnership with EPIC going forward. Okay.
Great, thank you so much for that, Sinead. Really appreciated those words. So I'm going to invite Wayne and Mirica back onto the screen, and questions are coming in. And again, people should feel free. I'm not sure we'll get to everything, but we'll do our best. So it's probably simplest for me just to read out some of the questions, and again, the folks on the screen can sort of read through so they have a good understanding, and then we'll see who wants to run with the discussion. So the first question from Tara Sirik, and Tara begins with thanking everybody for the work, and says great to see more research with care experienced young people, and Tara's own PhD research is in this area. Now she goes on to say, she may have missed this in the report, but here's the question: what types of care placements are represented in the study? So a little bit of extra context. We know that experience for children in residential care will be different for foster or familial. Did you hear any comments about the relationship between education and placement type from the young people or stakeholders? So I don't know who wants to jump in on that. Mirica, that might be one for you in the first instance. So yeah, types of care placement.
Yes, thank you for the question. In terms of the discussions that we had with young people, we had some people from residential care, and most of them were actually from foster care background. When they discussed their educational experiences, there wasn't much difference between those in residential care and foster care situation. Although, you know, those in foster care were more likely to mention where their foster parents were particularly supportive of their education, but then also the same could be said about young people in residential care. In some cases, they also had some very strong support, but where the difference really was in interpersonal relationships with their peers. When it comes to, let's say, visits, that those from residential care were more awkward, kind of were feeling more awkward about inviting their friends, you know, to where they live, because they didn't really want to start explaining, you know, why this kind of accommodation, why these sort of rules. So they kind of try to avoid that kind of conversation with their peers.
Okay, thanks for that, Mirica. I'm going to move on to the next question, and I mean, again, Mirica, you're welcome to pitch in on this, and then Wayne, you're probably going to have a view as well. So it's from an anonymous attendee, and the question begins with a statement: this is such a saturated research area. So this is said not to take away from the research, which is wholly welcome, but the findings have not strayed from research findings nationally or internationally. We know from both a policy and professional point what needs to improve, but the system is exceptionally slow to change. The question is, to what extent will this research promote positive change? How will the research be used? And the person says, as both a carer leaver and SCW worker, it is disheartening to be having the same conversations over and over again. Okay, so this is a pointed question that often comes up in these situations. So I don't know, Wayne, do you want to make a reply to that one in the first instance? Wayne, can you just unmute?
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm just muted there. You think I'd be used to it at this point. So I think that's very fair, and I touched on it a little bit in that, as I said, and I as a social worker, the person themselves would be aware of this, is that there isn't, and Sinead highlighted this as well, in terms of the finding where we end up. There's nothing in it that would shock anyone who works in this area. So in that sense, it's absolutely true. I think in terms of the research, I would say I've rarely read something where the voice of the young people is so powerful. So I do think this will be a really useful tool, but in and of itself, it's only a step along the way, and we hope to continue the work with TU Dublin and and schools across the country. We have launched another resource supported by TESS, the Tuition Education Support Service, that's to go into school to support schools who want to be more care aware around understanding the experience of young people in care, and also a tool along with it that can support schools to actually how they might address some of those challenges. So it is part of a program of work. And I did mention we're hoping to have another event in October, which will be bringing those stakeholders together. And we're already talking to people in the Department of Education and the Department of Children about bringing them on board. There's a number of things we can do. One, the thing is there is, I won't stray into another question, but there are going to be opportunities to look at things like the way aftercare support is done and the way we look at that transition period. There is a review of the alternative care strategy in the programme for government. Those are opportunities that we do need to take, because it would be really disappointing if in 2 years' time or 3 years' time we're back having the same conversations. That is often the way we are, but I suppose I have to hold on to my optimism if we're going to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, we had an event in the ESRI recently, again, on an issue of social policy. I won't go into the detail, but there was a senior civil servant president, who made the point that unfortunately, you do have to keep fighting the fight. And the assumption sort of that everybody knows these things, everybody wears them, that's often not the case. And unfortunately, the way public policy works in Ireland, especially from a funding perspective, when you have an annual budget cycle, that people need to be going in armed with as much evidence as they possibly can on an ongoing basis. And it can be frustrating, but it's still important. Okay, let's keep rolling with the questions. Next one I'm going to take, it's Marianne Joyce has submitted. So again, thank you, Marianne says, thanks so much for the fantastic report presentation. I want to ask whether is it a role in legislation to address these problems? And for example, could the ongoing review of the Child Care Act of 1991 have a place in providing a remedy for those leaving care and entering education? So I don't know who on the screen would like to take that one. I mean, again, the question of legislative change.
Maybe I can go. I can go first, and then think. So there is correctly the Child Care Act is under review, and there's changes going forward. We had hoped that the amendment bill would address or expand the criteria for aftercare under Section 59 of the Act. It doesn't appear that they're going there. However, which I mentioned before, there is a part of the reason for that, or the part of the reasoning for that articulated to us, was that there is an alternative care policy being devised. And we hope within that criteria, Section 45 will be looked at, and that'll create another opportunity for us to look at particularly that aftercare model around that. So that's really where the opportunity in that review of the Child Care Act is for us.
Great. Okay. I'll keep moving on. So Greg Dillon submitted a question. Research spoke about the essential supports from teachers, guidance counselors, and I guess social care workers in school. So what do they propose to intensify supports in third level or FET for more impactful outcomes? So I don't know, Sinead, I don't mean to throw you in or whatever like that, but I mean on the specific question of the sort of supports that should be available in third level or FET. I mean, I think this is something we probably have thought about.
So it's something kind of we look at that you would have specific financial supports would be one of the barriers. So I suppose the Students Assistance Fund, if we knew a student was for care experience, it would be automatic eligibility, or things like the 1916 bursary. We do where we know make students automatically eligible where they wouldn't need to be reassessed for funding. So it's those kind of targeted financial supports, but also around, at the moment, we're kind of looking at where we can provide accommodation. I know that was mentioned in the research, where we can provide accommodation. That would be one that we would like to pursue, that you would make accommodation available for somebody who is in the aftercare system of care experience. So also, like some of we have access entry routes, so the HERE scheme, our own bespoke access to UW, and I know all of the other HEIs have access entry routes. So there would be automatic eligibility for students for the care system. You would have mentoring, peer-to-peer mentoring. If we had larger numbers where we knew of care experienced students, we could have a peer mentoring system between students. They mentioned there in the research around kind of students' difficulties with making friendships and stuff. At the moment, we have student ambassadors who work with our access support, our students coming in through access entry routes. So that would be kind of a group that we could look at. Like, there are individualized supports that we can put in place. And I know we are trying to focus on that, but when we don't know who the students are, it's very difficult. Our relationships that we have with the likes of TUSLA or our social care workers are introducing us to the students we already have in the care system. So where that relationship is developed, we put these bespoke supports in place. We've extremely good access support team who focus on those students. So we'd like to expand on that, I suppose. Hope that answers.
Yeah, no, I think so. And Olivia O'Connell submitted a question also, like, on this issue of there's specific, what alternative or innovative aftercare support models did you encounter in the research that could effectively balance flexibility and accountability? So again, I mean, I think you've touched on a lot of those issues in your response, Sinead. I'll keep, unless America and Wayne want to put up a hand, I'm going to carry on. There's a question here which I was going to ask myself, but again, it's an anonymous attendee, but let me read out the question. So the aftercare payment only applies if a young person transitions to college. Care experienced young people wishing to pursue training or apprenticeships should also be available for the aftercare payment. This was evidence in America's study. Some are being pushed into college as the only means of getting the aftercare payment, and college is not suitable for everybody. So I just wanted to make sure I understood the sort of the administration here. So in order to have, it sounds like, an ongoing sort of financial support or whatever like that, that it did seem to be contingent on going to college, and that the scope basically to do anything else, or B, to do a gap year or have the capacity or the bandwidth or whatever like that to sort of, ease transitions, it didn't seem to be there. So am I right, America, that it seems like a sort of very binary system? You get a payment if you go into college and you don't. Is it as blunt as that?
A young person has to be in a full-time accredited educational training course in order to qualify for aftercare payment. So
okay,
they have to be eligible. Yeah, they have to be eligible for that. And the eligibility is
Yeah.
being in training and education.
Okay, so that does not seem like a great idea. Just my impression on this, that certainly seems like something you would want assessed. Let's get to pick up another question then. So what specific systemic barriers did the young people find? Transitions in and out of school need more targeted support, and the stigma piece is very disheartening to hear. What other kinds of barriers arose? So again, Merica, do you want to sort of pick that one up, the systemic barriers?
I suppose it's the inflexibility of the system, because young care experienced people can have varied levels of needs, and some people may have quite complex needs. And also the fact that, let's say, maybe some individuals would like to go to a higher education later in life, and to kind of maybe support those different options that work better for care experienced young people. Because I think that the current system really is focused very much on a traditional student, but many care experienced people are anything but.
Okay.
So just being flexible enough in order to support the stage where a young person is at, and make sure that they can reach their full potential when they are ready for different stages of their education.
Cool. Thanks for that. And next question from Gil Kyo. And again, Sinead, you've touched on some of this already, but what can we do as access practitioners to support students in the early days of the college experience to foster the sense of belonging and support empowerment for care experienced students? So again, do you want to develop that a little bit further then, Sinead?
Like some of the things that we would look at would be the peer-to-peer support, where you have students who are maybe in second or third year, who are care experienced students, who would support the incoming first year student, or maybe work with them beforehand in an outreach capacity. But also we have orientation. We have a pre-orientation session for our students coming in through access entry routes. So that would be a smaller group where you're bringing them onto campus, giving them a taste of different things in higher education, maybe a taste of some of the modules, and you would work with them to transition into higher education. I'll just really go back there as well to the previous question, just in terms of kind of students who don't want to go to college and are forced to because of the aftercare payment. Like, there are new routes coming on stream, I suppose, new pathways into higher education that might slow down the process. If somebody wasn't, I suppose, interested in taking on a 4-year degree program kind of directly after school, or maybe don't know what they want to do, like, there's a big emphasis at the moment on the further education route, or the National Tertiary Office, where you would have you would be part of the college. You would be a student of, say, for example, TU Dublin, you're a student from day one, but you might spend 2 years in a further education college doing a program. You'd start kind of for 2 years. You'd have a lot less of a fee, in fact, nearly free fees for the first year or two in that setting. And then you would transition into higher education. But for the 4 years, you're a student of the university. So that's a national scheme. Every higher education institute are looking at that at the moment. So, like, there are options like that we could look at in an outreach capacity with care experienced students, that you're not being forced into a 4-year program that you might not like. You get the opportunity to take it in smaller steps, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's also sort of strikes me. I probably shouldn't talk about this because I'm not an educational expert, but it's just in years of sort of chairing events as ESRI director, I sometimes get the impression that we've done an amazingly good job in Ireland at increasing the proportion of kids who go on to third level. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight a little bit of the making sure they were doing the right courses at the right time. It's almost like a quantity quality type argument. And second thing you were touching on there, Sinead, I mean, apart from care experienced kids, it always strikes me that kids from more socioeconomically deprived backgrounds kind of enter third level and feel as if in some sense they don't belong. It's the ultimate in the imposter syndrome. I think all of us, you know, even remember our own college days where you sort of rocked up at the big gates for the first time and just how intimidating a third level setting can be. And I think that sometimes I think breaking down, you know, that sense is just one of the most valuable things that third level institutions could do, you know, for kids generally.
I suppose like that's where your pre-entry outreach comes in, where we would target kind of primary school students right up to secondary school, bring them onto campuses. And I know every HEI in the country are trying that in some capacity, where you would build a relationship with particularly DESH schools or you know, aligned to kind of groups in the National Access Plan. So you would bring them onto campus from third, fourth, fifth class in primary school, and then build a relationship then with the secondary school, constantly kind of, you know, getting them not just onto campus once, but a relationship with the university. One of the things we, I suppose, like about some of the university settings are that they're open campuses where communities can walk through and get a feel for it, so that it's not the first experience when a student gets to the first day of college. You know, they've built that relationship.
Thanks for that. Now we're coming to the end, but just a couple of things. Firstly, a number of people in questions have asked where the report is available. So it is available certainly on the ESRI website. So if you go to esri.ie, and we normally have the sort of the most recent reports on the front page. So if you want to log on as soon as we're finished, you'll certainly find the report there. We had another question, and I kind of like it. Yeah, Ashley McHugh was asking if the study could be used for lobbying purposes, and she's talking about how access offices are very stretched, so that really this should be all part of the lobbying exercise for more resources. We, the ESRI, we don't do lobbying, but we very happily see people use reports that we do to lobby. So Ashley, you should feel very, very free to do that. Connor Stitt has a question. I think, Sinead, you may have mentioned Connor earlier on. It's not a question, but just congratulating and endorsing the folks for the work that was done. And I do want to take a question from Anthony Eames. This might be one for you, Marika. Was there any findings on the quality of communication between care professionals? So social workers and residential staff, teaching staff, and how the task of the adults to collaborate effectively is key. So Marika, you would have talked, do you know what I mean, to the sort of the various bodies. So your impression of the degrees of effective communication between the different players.
Yeah, there are sort of two areas where I could draw from to answer this question. When it came to talking to young care experienced young people, I could see that sometimes there was a lack of communication between social workers and schools, whereby you know, a student moved schools, and in the previous school the teachers wondered what had happened to the student because all of a sudden they went missing. You know, so the kind of communication between social workers and different schools would be good. In terms of the stakeholder consultation, I think what emerged from there that more communication should take place between different stakeholders. And it was mentioned that perhaps more fora should be available where different individuals could discuss in terms of ways forward. And I think that the event that is planned for October, that probably will encourage that. And when I mentioned the wraparound support for a young person, I think that it is essential that everybody would work together, and that everybody is aware also of different developments and different initiatives, different work that is being done by various organizations, because sometimes there's also lack of awareness of what is going on. So I think that a kind of better awareness is also something that I would like to highlight.
Great, thanks for that. Just one brought on. A number of people have written in to say that the aftercare payments is more flexible than might have been suggested earlier on, that it was more narrowly linked to college education. So we can pick that up anyway and just make sure that the information is correct. We're slightly over, but I'll just take this last one from Anne McCluskey. And again, it's something that I was interested in as a discussion. It's around this question of the one good adult. So I'll read out Anne's contribution. So I welcome Wayne Stanley's comment about the limitations of the one good adult approach. This may increase the vulnerability of the care experienced student and indeed the adult supporting them, teacher, social worker, or others. Schools that take a relational approach and/or schools who are attachment and trauma aware offer this support on a systemic basis. So do we see evidence that this may become a universal national approach, or that the Department of Education and TUSLA have identified that the relational approaches in education are key to the engagement and positive outcome for care experienced students? So it's an interesting concept. I don't know, America, if you want to give a quick reaction, and maybe Wayne as well, but just the relative advantages and disadvantages of a sort of a one good adult philosophy or whatever, and again, as Anne says in the question, the more relational type approach. My guess is there are benefits probably from both approaches, and some sort of a blend is required. But do you want to give a quick response, America?
Yeah, the conversations with young people very clearly indicated that they really appreciated having somebody that would that they can go to in order to discuss whatever is going on in their lives. And maybe it's kind of like how people relate to each other as well. Sometimes it could have been a teacher, particularly, let's say, in a subject that the student enjoyed, so there was a kind of common ground there. Could have been also a sports coach. Some people found that mentor, so to say, like when they were doing a little bit of volunteering. But I think that the human connection cannot be underestimated, and the importance of that.
Yeah, and Wayne, we give the last word to you.
Yeah, so I reiterate what Marika said. I think Anne is entirely correct. I mean, what we want is an education system that is responsive in a systemic way, but fundamentally you need both, because you're going to have different relationships with different people. That's the nature of being human, and we need to allow for the humanity in the whole thing, but we do need a school system. And it's a school system that will benefit everybody if we're more systemic in the support. I think it is important to say that there are lots of initiatives happening at the moment. I mean, the National Access Plan has recognised care experience as a priority, and that's the first time that has happened. So this report isn't in a vacuum, and it isn't shouting into a vacuum. There is actually, and I think Sinead has captured that really well here. There's lots of good work happening, and this is about building momentum in that space, and there is good momentum to be harnessed there, and EPIC want to play a role in that. But I do think, to go back to the question that was asked, yeah, I think Anna's right. We need both.
Very good. Okay, look, it's we said we'd go to 1:15, and it's 11:20, so I should probably draw things to a close. Apologies, there were a range of other questions, but I'm going to suggest to our panelists that maybe they can look through the additional questions, and if there's specific ones that they feel they can answer bilaterally, well, that we'll organise things on that basis. So with that, I just want to thank everybody again. So thanks especially to America for an excellent presentation and an excellent report, and I think, as was flagged once or twice, I think you'll be doing additional presentations on this in the months ahead. But I think, again, the wider discussions will be very valuable. So thanks to Sinead and Wayne as well for giving some comments, but also engaging in the discussion. Thanks to everybody for logging on this morning and submitting the questions. And with that, I think we'll sign off, and I'm sure we'll be all talking again before too long. Okay, so have a good day.
Thank
Bye.
you.